What is going on, everyone? Episode number 10 of the Bullshooting Podcast. Once again, we are here live. Will Stuart here of USA Darts, of course. Alongside me for this episode, a guest we've had on numerous times. How about this, folks? Mr. Sean Green. Buddy, how's it going? Welcome to the show once again.
Buddy, it is so good to be back here at the Bullshooter Podcast. I feel like you've done 10 episodes. I think I've been a part of quite a few of them now, and I am always honored every time you invite me on, bud.
Well, we always like having you. We figured it's only fitting as we're going to preview the Continental Cup, and of course you're a commentator on that, so it's nice to kind of bring you in, get your opinion on that aspect, as well as the TOC recap, as you were there alongside me and Nick Teixeira for that streaming. I mean, 31 hours of streaming we did there. How about that, buddy? I don't know if you were counting, but I was. 31 hours.
31 hours surprises me because of how much fun it was to stream that amount of hours. It seemed like it was 10 by the time we were done with it. Every time we went through it, it just, I mean, it surprised me. 31 hours of straight coverage. 4 boards was awesome. If we would have figured out the one board with the internet cutting in and out, whatever, I think that would have been the only thing that made it not perfection. But other than that, it was perfect. And talk about a great event, man. That was so much fun. How much fun was it for you from your side of things? Because you've done a lot of different tournaments. This is your first time at TOC. How was it for you?
It was great. I mean, to kind of look at things and be like 10:30 to 4, I think we was streaming, and then we went 6 to 9. We were like, that's hard to believe. We're going to be streaming a little bit later than that. No, actually, our elite ended pretty much right about 9 o'clock every single night. They're on it there. They really push you to the board, get you going, so you're not there till 2 o'clock in the morning. I think that's why it's such a great success. Players aren't lulling on that last day of action. Instead, they're kind of hustling up, getting to the board, doing what they need to do. So the tournament can kind of move along. So especially in that triple elimination format, you really need to do that. So, well, we'll get right into it, man. Let's do it. The Tournament of Champions, we're already talking about it. We might as well just get right along with it, man. Jules van Dongen, man, what a tournament for him. What do you have to say about that?
He was a man possessed that weekend. I think he came in wanting to prove something. He had that fire again. He had that spark. You could tell every time he walked into a tournament hall, and I got to see him and talk to him, he was focused. Every time he was playing an event, he was extremely focused. He would put in his headphones and go. You don't see that as often from him at big tournaments, but you can tell it meant a lot to him. And, man, to walk away with over $24,000, that focus went a long way. He just dominated the whole weekend. And that's saying a lot because there were so many amazing shots there the whole time. And he just wouldn't lose. He refused to lose is really kind of what happened.
Yeah, you're correct there. Big shout out real quick. We got Jeremy Byrne, Kevin Malenfant, the OG of USA Darts, Steve Diker tuning in, as well as numerous others on Facebook and YouTube. Thanks for joining us here. If you have any questions, ask it in the comment section. We'll try to get to it by the end. But yeah, if you're not tuned in live, we'll do the audio podcast version after this, so it'll probably be available in the next couple days. So if you want to enjoy a podcast version, do that as well. But yeah, you're right. On Jules van Dongen, man, first little slide here is men's CSI. So as you can see, the big $10,000 check there. Man, you could really see that it meant something to him. I mean, there were some stressful darts there. He was kind of shaking a little bit. That's the first time he's played on that big stage for that amount of money, and to earn it. He said it really meant a lot, and he's going to use it, of course, towards some travel expenditures. Of course, you got to do that and go overseas constantly, so I'm sure that's a big, hefty charge, and I'm sure that's not even enough to get him by yet, but it's still a little bit more.
No. That was actually an interesting thing to talk to him about, is that he does not have a manager. So he's not managed by anyone for the PDC. His wife takes that role as manager for him. So he talked about it being about $20,000 in travel expenses and things like that. It's nice to know that he now has that money to roll with. I know that it's going to take a lot of weight off his shoulders. Man, you want to talk about that match with Soldier. I'm waiting for that thing to get reposted because the back and forth. Soldier wins the first part of the triple dip and the second part, and now he's winning. And for Jules to finally pick it up and just start battling back, 7.0s averaged in order to do it. It really was a testament. So much so that you saw Leonard Gates. I mean, he was asleep 15 minutes after that was over on the benches. That's how much effort that took out of both those guys. It was really a battle back and forth. I know you have like a story that you might want to tell behind the scenes on that selfie picture that you took.
Yeah, it was pretty funny. I kind of gained over and I double took as I was walking through, and I go, is Leonard just knocked out on the bleachers right now? So I had to snap a pic. Of course, Millar and Jesse Gore got in the mix for that one. But yeah, you could really tell all his effort was going into that match, and unfortunately just coming up a little bit short. But you could even see it in the replay, and you'll be able to watch this here soon on USA Darts, that he stood there at the line and said, man, no matter what, congrats to you. You won this, and you beat me by just a little bit, but a little bit goes a long ways, and Jules really gave it a go after that win, too. So that was nice to see, I thought.
Oh, I thought it was cool when talking to Jules afterwards. He brought up the fact, and we kind of assume with $10,000 versus $1,000 that the players might have a little friendly split, 60-40, 70-30. No, he went into it. He did not want to, not that he didn't want to split with them because it was Leonard, but he wanted to keep the edge on in the match, and it paid off at the end. But I'm sure after he got down to the triple dip format, he was like, was this a smart move not to try and get something extra out of this? But my goodness, did he turn it on at the right time? Both those guys, hats off to them. They gave us a show. It was definitely two gladiators in a battle zone there. It was awesome.
Yeah.
It
really was. And to kind of continue on, it wasn't just that win. It was Mike Carter in doubles with Jules to win that event. It was Trisha Romero and her husband in triples of Division 1 to win that with Jules.
Yep.
And, of course, that CSI win. And then how about this one? The men's elite finale. He goes ahead and wins that with Dario Meza. That was a fantastic run that those two gentlemen had. And just to meet of just a random draw and a blind draw format for a top prize of $20,000 split, $10,000 a piece. Wow, that means a lot. So two $10,000 checks for Jules that weekend.
Yeah, I mean, that TOC finale, the going into it, seeing who you get as your partner, it really is a crapshoot. You could end up with a Jules van Dongen, Jeremiah Millar matchup. That didn't happen. And if you're Dario Meza, think if you're Dario Meza and the night before you're trying to get some sleep, knowing that the next day you're going to battle with Jules van Dongen, who has won 3 out of the 4 events that he played in at that point in time. And if you guys don't win that event, there's only one factor there, and it is you. So you got to be doing your best to support. Dario played fantastic throughout the whole thing. I was happy we got to see him the day before, and I think a level 1 finals, which really allowed us to see his skill level, and we knew that it was going to be a good pairing. We said that ahead of time, that was going to be one of the favorites. Always with Jules, it's one of the favorites, but Jules could have been paired with someone who, maybe was down at the bottom of that list on the 128. And the other cool factor is those guys can all look up each other's ratings and see where they stand. I think that plays a factor, bud. I really do. You go in there with a mental state of, all right, we can do this today. Or I got number 127 on the list. This is probably not going to go very well.
You're correct, sir. And I actually asked that in the post-match interview with Dario and Jules. I asked Dario, I looked to him and I said, how much pressure was it when you looked at that bracket and realized you had Jules? And he goes, oh, there was pressure. There was pressure. He said, I might have to change my britches out there a couple times. Which is pretty funny. But no, it's just like a little scary format. You have a good partner. Now you just got to live up to the bill. And like I said during the during the broadcast. You just got to compliment that guy. You can't try to outdo him. You just got to compliment him. And sometimes he'll hit that 7 mark, 9 mark. Maybe you just need to go up there and hit a 4 or 5, and it'll work. It'll work. And it proved to be the case. But moving on, it was the women's CSI as well. And of course, it was a familiar face, a second time for this champion. Chrissy Grimmel wins the women's CSI, a nice little $5,000 in her back pocket. What do you have to say about that one?
Yeah, she had a great weekend as well. Chrissy is a phenomenal person, first and foremost. So to see her in her intense focus, she is also a scary person at that line. She makes no friends at that line, even though she's going up against one of her best friends in Meredith McGee in the final. I will say they did split beforehand, although you would never have noticed that as that match was going on. They looked like two players that didn't even like each other at times. It was kind of funny. Afterwards, we were like, there was some tension there. Is everything okay? Oh yeah, it's good. It's just Chrissy and I. That's how we do battle. We always are going to go to war.
You could really tell that. I mean, honestly, when you were seeing it, Chrissy was definitely upset that Meredith was taking her sweet time. She was like, "Come on, let's get going. Let's play this match.
Yeah.
I want to go home." You can even tell in the post-match, Chrissy wanted nothing to do with our interview. She said, "I want to go home. I want to get out of here." So that's exactly what she did. So kudos to Chrissy Grimmel. And then for our women's elite finale, I wanted to mention these two lovely ladies because they are lovely ladies. Hunter Smith, Abby Spott. Congrats to those two ladies, and I think they were thrilled when they drew each other too, because you just kind of knew, all right, that team definitely stood out among the rest and was like, these two ladies could win this today, and they certainly did. They went out like champions, and I don't think they lost, but maybe a leg or two throughout the whole day, I think.
Yeah, they were dominant. It was as expected for them to be dominant going into it with the draw. I talked to Abby afterwards, and she said that she does not like to look to see who her partner is. She likes to look at someone else's reaction to see who her partner is. And when she saw the smirk on Sugar Shane Johnson's face, she immediately got up, sprinted around the building, excited that she knew she got at least someone good. And then when she saw it was Hunter, one of her really good friends, hey, sometimes the luck of the draw favors those top players, and it definitely favored Abby and Hunter. But it's still not easy. You still have to go out there and get the job done. Hats off to those ladies for not buckling under the pressure of being the favorites, because it is something to be mentioned. Sometimes that extra added pressure of being a favorite can make you kind of wither. And it was not the case for those two. Absolutely not. Yeah, they were awesome.
I would have to agree. That kind of can make you feel a little bit more pressure than you want. So wanted to mention this. Thomas Weed said we gave Ryan Anderson so much banter the night before for drawing Kenny Doyle. So that just goes to show you, you get one of them top names, it's gonna be one of those tough ones. So anyway, yeah, continuing on, man.
I do want to
go ahead.
I want to give you a shout out real quick, man, because I was skeptical on your idea for the walk-ons. For the CSI, for the men's and the ladies. I was like, I don't know if not doing it live is going to be the best thing, man. I just couldn't see your vision. Dude, hats off to you. It was really cool. The players really enjoyed it. I think we got the best feedback ever from the players. They had to be there extra early in order to do it. They all did it, and I think they had the time of their life doing it. Jeremiah Millar's coming in with the 2 buckets of beer was the greatest thing of all time. I mean,
that was great.
I don't think I had more fun that weekend than being able to announce those and seeing those kind of firsthand. So hats off to you for that. I know that was your vision. That was not Nick and I. I will not take credit for that. That was definitely you, and you did great, man. It was awesome.
Well, appreciate that. I didn't see that one coming, so thank you very much. But yeah, I think it was just one of those things I envisioned, and I was like, this could really work or this could really suck. So it's one of those things that I'm glad we took a chance and it kind of hit, and the players enjoyed it. Seeing all these profile pictures get changed to the walk-on is pretty cool. I think we were mentioning really cool. That between me, you, and Nick. So that was great.
It was awesome. It was that whole tournament. Honestly, if you have not been, if you want to go, get signed up in a PVD league, because that event alone, no matter how much money is in payouts for leagues, no matter how much money is in payouts for anything, the 50K bonus pool brought even more money for those guys that they won. It's definitely worth it to get involved in those PPD leagues because TOC itself pays for it. It really does. A lot of players walked out with well over $1,000. A lot.
Yeah, that money is something that you need to be a part of. I heard that the PPD is getting a lot of players reaching out that haven't played in forever that are now starting to want to play again and be a part of it. Yep. So kudos to everybody involved. Definitely reach out to Darts TOC or get on dartstoc.com and get involved in that system because I'm telling you, they're just going to keep growing, and you're going to want to be a part of it. I guarantee you. So, moving on, a little Pro Tour recap, buddy. We had a couple events back to back. As it was the Grand Prix and of course the Euro Tour that just concluded. The Grand Prix, getting right into it, man. MVG looking dominant throughout that weekend in that double in, double out format. Just doing what he needed to do the whole time. As he won the final over Nathan Aspinall 5-3. What's your thoughts on MVG winning that?
It's always great to see MVG back on the top of his game. We saw that week or last weekend, dude. Averaging 99 plus in a double in, double out tournament is gross. And he did it in multiple matches. He whitewashed Peter Wright. He won one leg the whole time. And you could tell Wright was he gave up. He was like, I'm done. This is fun. You could tell in that last leg that he played in because he had like 6 darts at an out, 8 darts in an out. He just didn't care. He didn't care anymore. He was already over it. And MVG talked about it afterwards. If he wins and he dominates, he has the ability to talk about it too. And he did. He threw the gauntlet down on a couple of other players and he's allowed to do that, but I think Wright also went into it and did what he wanted to do, which was get back to the world #1 spot. And I know that playing second that night might have taken off some of that edge for him because he watched Price already lose, which cemented him as the new #1. So I think that might have played a little bit of a role in it, but MVG dominated. It was gross. And hats off to Nathan Aspinall. He was down 4-0 in the final.
Yep.
It was also looking like it was going to be a quick affair, and he made it 5-3. He gave him a run for his money. I know MVG at the end was kind of breathing a sigh of relief to get over the finish line.
Yeah, he certainly was. Just a quick little shout out to MVG. There's the nice little trophy that he won.
It's a cool trophy.
It is a very cool trophy. I wanted to make sure we put that picture out, and kudos to the PDC for this one. So big shout out to them. But yeah, I mean, it was pure dominance from him, and yeah, you're right. Peter Wright becoming the new world #1. Him and Price are just rotating back and forth, and that'll be the case until the World Championships, until somebody can put a substantial amount of money, towards like. Oh, I lost my train of thought because I got my wife's text scrolled on my phone here.
You're getting yelled at already?
Yeah, I'm getting yelled at over here in the background. No, but I think him and Price are just rotating back and forth, and then that'll be the case until the World Championships when we can get some more prize money in the ranking system. That's the problem with the ranking system right now is it needs to be shuffled. It needs to be changed just a little bit because, I mean, honestly, the way it is a 2-person race until, somebody gets involved in that World Championship.
Yeah, honestly, I don't know what the right answer is, but to have a 2-year order of merit where as soon as an event ends, if you won it 2 years ago, now that money goes away from your ranking, so it drops you down so much. So Peter Wright still has that $500K that's in his pocket, again, for next year all the way through, where Gerwin Price has to win the Worlds again this year to keep that $500K in his pocket. But you're right. If Gerwin Price does not win the Worlds this year, it doesn't matter what else happens. That $500K goes away, and it's anyone's ballgame at that point. But I don't know. I don't know the right answer there, man. I don't know what they can do to make it different. I don't know if they just keep adding money to it and don't take away the money ever. But then MVG is going to be world number one for years and years and never going to be able to break that. It's how they do the seedings for everything. I don't know, man. It's tough. It's tough to think about an actual option that works, which is probably why they do the 2-year.
Well, no matter what, somebody's going to have an issue with it, even when they do change it. As we see Raymond Van Barneveld actually complaining about the Grand Prix format, saying it should be no double in, double out. He said that's an old school format. They need to get rid of it. And I think Raymond just needs to kind of grow up a little bit. I enjoy having that one unique tournament that is double in, double out. I mean, it's a different type of format, and you got to be on your doubles in order to win that. And we see it with like iconic Blueberry Hill, that 301, double in, double out. A lot of people want to go try to win that because it's a coveted title. I think the same with the Grand Prix, but Euro Tour, buddy.
I agree with that.
Yeah, I was just
agree
about to
with
say,
that completely.
I think it's one of those ones that I like a little bit of leg play, a little set play, match play, and then double in, double out. Euro Tour, Jeff Smith. Man, just hitting brick walls at these Euro Tours. I feel bad for him because he goes there and it's first round out every time, and it's not a close first round out. It's kind of unfortunately been one of those ones where he's taken a licking, and he certainly took a fair share this weekend as it was a 6-0 loss to Wesley Plaisir, but they averaged almost identical averages, a 92.97 for Wesley and a 91.87 for Jeff. So, I mean, his averages were there. It's just Wesley was taking advantage when he needed to, and unfortunately, it's a first-round exit, so he's enjoying Gibraltar before he heads home. Unfortunate, but that's how it goes, man.
It's tough. Talk about one of the nicest guys in darts, and then on top of that, gambling will bring an ugly side to things sometimes. So when he makes a post on Facebook about, all the hate that he's getting in the messenger and messages and stuff like that, it's all gambling related. And those guys are idiots that are sending him messages about that. Obviously, he doesn't want to lose 6-0 either. So for you to put a message in his chat box, it's like, oh, you suck. I can't believe you cost me a whole bunch of money, whatever. Just stop playing, blah, blah, blah. That's terrible. Put money on the other guy. That was your fault for putting money on him. I don't know what to tell you, but it's definitely not Jeff Smith's fault that this is happening. If you see averages that are very close, but you see a 6-0 whitewash, that means either your opponent's hitting his doubles with way more consistency than you are, or your opponent's hitting big finishes. And unfortunately, I think it was a mixture of both that cost him that match. And when it's a race to 6, it's tough because you can blink and be down 3-0 in 2 breaks, and you're outside looking in. It just makes it really tough.
Yep, it certainly does, sir. And the tournament kind of shuffled on, and ended the day, Damon Hedda and Peter Wright met in the final. It was an 8-7 win for Damon Hedda in this one. It was the final wasn't as great as we would hope. 92 averages, although there were some impressive checkouts. Peter Wright went a bull, trip 7 bull, which was pretty impressive for a 1-2-1, and then a 1-6-7 or a checkout from Damon Hedda in that final. But where it was impressive was the semifinals. It was a 102 average for both Damon Hedda and MVG in the semis, and then a 108 average in the semis for Peter Wright. So there was some confidence going into that final, and I think maybe it just kind of unfortunately fell out a little bit in that one. But Damon Hedda with the win in this one to lift a Euro Tour title. It's got to feel good for him. He gets a lot of money on that in his back pocket too, so that's got to feel nice. And I think he's going to be he could possibly enter into the top 10 sooner rather than later if we don't watch out. I think that could very well be a possibility. I believe he's in the 18th or somewhere hovering around that mark, if I would have to say so myself. What do you think?
I hope so. You want to see some of those guys, and this is nothing against the UK players, but the UK players dominate, and they continue to dominate. It's always great to see the rest of the world kind of get into that top 10, get into those spots. That's why we love Simon Whitlock so much, is because for so long he was going kind of against the grain, old school player, of course, and he's still going to go against the grain because his checkouts that he decides to go sometimes are insanity, but you love it. But, being from Australia, it is very similar to being a player from the United States traveling over there to play. You have to be successful quickly to be able to stay over there. And that's the unfortunate thing that we have with the rest of the world against the UK players who can just. Dimitri Vandenberg lived in the same city as the Grand Prix, and I'm really blanking on the name for some reason, but it's in the middle of England. So and he mentioned it in his interview. You can go 2 hours north if you have to go to Wales or go where you need to go. 2 hours south if it's in the south of England or the UK. It all works, and unfortunately, our guys just have to come back home and travel back over. It just becomes a little bit more difficult, a lot more travel. So you always root for those rest of the world players. I know I do, at least.
Yeah, you're right. And Damon, actually, when we chatted to him in our little interview that we had with him, he expressed that he had already committed to making the move over even before he had his tour card. So that's why he was so committed and said, if I'm going to do this, I have to go over there. After talking to Kyle Anderson, his good mate there, and Simon Whitlock, he said, that's the key to success is I can't do this back and forth. I have to go over there. So I think that is why he's succeeding as well as he is. But special mention here because this kid is phenomenal. And the rest of the world better watch out because this kid can win a title, a world title. By title, I mean a world championship. And that's Josh Rock, 21 years of age. Consistently throwing above 95 averages. And he's tore up the development tour this year. 5 titles there. Has done well on the PDC. I think he's got 3 European tours into the quarterfinals, bud. Yeah, that's crazy. 77th in the world right now. And he qualified for the World Youth Championship final against Nathan Gervin in November ahead of the Players' Championship final.
Yeah, I mean, dude, this kid's going to win some world championships. I think if he continues on the streak that he's going, if he doesn't plateau or drop off, I know the pressure, he's young, the pressure might bring him back down to earth. It didn't for MVG. Josh Rock could be that next MVG-like player that just kind of dominates for a few years. He has the game to do so. When Barry Hearn himself, when asked who's the up-and-comer to look at, specifically mentions you by name and only you by name, you're a good player. And not just a good player, you can be a fantastic player. So if you're on Barry Hearn's radar, you should be on everyone's radar. And Josh Rock playing in the World Youth Championship, I knew once I saw his name there that it was almost guaranteed that he was going to make the final. I do want to give a shout out to my boy Joey Lanaugh for making the top 32 as an unranked player. I thought that was awesome. Of course, he drew Keen Barry in the first round of the top 32. That sucks. But he did phenomenal. He almost came back on him too. I think he lost 6-4 and he was down 4-1 at one point. But yeah, Josh Rock is the real deal. He's going to continue to be the real deal. Nathan Gervin, I think, can be the real deal too. But if you're asking me who a favorite is for that World Youth Championship right now, it's Josh Rock, and I think Josh Rock wins it handily.
Touche on that one, buddy, because I'd have to agree with you there. I think that he's going to be the one that's going to have to be beaten in that Youth World Championship final. But I did want to mention Thomas Weed said, don't forget Damon Hedda will be making an appearance in Wisconsin in January, which he will be making that appearance with Danny Baggish as well as Devin Peterson. We'll be there actually to stream some of that event. Hopefully we can stream some of those guys. We'll see, as they have to get permission from the PDC in order to do that one. But we'll try to do some interviews and stuff as well. But for Josh Rock, how about this? He almost made the semis today, buddy, because he was one dart away from winning 6-5 over Rob Cross, except it was the other way around, and it was a 101 average compared to Rob Cross's 98 in that quarterfinal. So that just shows you this kid is real, and he's going to be here for quite some time, I believe.
Yeah, the stage doesn't matter to him. If he's on a floor event, doesn't matter. He just continuously gets into quarterfinals, semifinals. I mean, 5 wins on the development tour. Are you kidding me? 5? That's insanity. Scott Williams was running away with the, why am I blanking right
Challenge
now?
tour.
But yeah, the Challenge Tour. He won, I
Yeah.
think, 5 events himself on the Challenge Tour, and then of course wins a PDC event, floor event as well. Josh Rock's right there. It is really scary how good that kid can be. Hands down, he's going to be one of the best in the world very quickly. He already is. 77th. He's 21 years old. It's only going to go up.
Yep, I agree.
It's
I
gross.
agree. Now getting to a little bit of a touchy subject because I, as an amateur darts player, this is really kind of tough to discuss. But what is actually happening with the amateur dart scene right now? It's kind of a touchy subject. But Martin Adams straight up talking some negativity about the WDF system, which you'd never like to see. Of course, that is a Modus signed player, by the way. So I wanted to mention that as we kind of go through here. But Matthew Porter as well saying that entry spots to PDC events are going to come through PDC systems, not through outside systems such as the WDF and other systems, which is kind of a eye-opener as things have been, leaning towards like, hey, we'll have some BDO players here, or maybe we'll have a WDF person fill in. Well, we're not going to get that anymore. So I don't know. What's your thoughts and opinions on that?
It's tough, man. The PDC has developed a brand. They've developed an entire system themselves. I think Matthew Porter is very accurate in saying that they don't need to look outside of that for extra spots and events. They have their own guys. They have many other places where they can pull from. Championship Dart Circuit, Asian Tour. There's some bigger. Those tours are rising in averages, rising in player consistency, and you're seeing the WDF kind of maintaining a little bit more than that. Even Bo, who was the Bo of the WDF for the last year and a half, 2 years, is now moving to the PDC Women's Series, and I think that's just going to continue as well. It's tough. It really is tough. The Modus Super Series has also kind of taken the amateur dart world by storm. I don't know too many players that wouldn't accept invites to play in Modus, and those are really cool league nights and week events that happen there. You saw Danny Lobby have a lot of success about a month ago in that, and Nathan Gervin was in that same group as him. And then you see Nathan Gervin now playing in the PDC World Youth Championship. I think there's just so many different avenues to go, and the PDC is taking a lot of those avenues, and it's making it really difficult. It really is. I'd like to know your thoughts more as an amateur player. You are more involved in those WDF events, or have been in the past, more so than I am, honestly. So I'd like to hear your actual opinion on that.
Well, I've always been a fan of. It's tough to say. I mean, there's a lot of discrepancy with the ADO, but I always firmly believe in the ADO. Without the ADO, what do we, how do we have these tournaments, and what do they mean? What can we do? So that's kind of the thing that I've always thought of. And then WDF is, there's always been an amateur world champion, and those have always been meaningful finals throughout darts history. But we've kind of hit that stagnant wall with COVID of, I think the WDF has went from, this, all right, we're always doing something, to now it's kind of taking a screeching halt in some places, where the Modus Super Series is starting to establish himself every single night, every single week they have an event, which is hard to beat because they're getting a lot of presence both on YouTube and their Sporty Stuff TV, as well as gambling books, folks. They're in the sports betting.
Yep.
I can bet on them right now in Kansas, which is, that kind of power is something. And I would love to see the CDC tour get in that kind of aspect of sports betting, because there's some major dollar bills that get thrown around when it comes to sports betting. And there was a question from Ashton Watt we
Ashton
get to
Watt.
a little bit later. I definitely want to mention this, but yeah, it takes one of those big names in the sports betting world, and then you've got a big prize pool to kind of shuffle around and bring some players in from overseas, and or just have a massive tournament that everybody wants to attend. That's my thoughts on it.
Yeah, you're absolutely right. The sports betting, Ashton does ask that question. My answer would be in that sports betting avenue. And, speaking with the top brass of the CDC, being a part of the team now, I know that they are looking at that avenue as far as we're tracking players enough now. Averages have been posted enough. We have enough information to where we could probably put some odds on some stuff accurately. And that's the main thing. That's the main thing that sports betting books and everything wants to make sure is in place, is that they are accurate representations for their odds, or else they're never going to want to do it. And Modus did a fantastic thing. They track everything. They have their own system for tracking everything. It all goes into databases, and they have all that stuff available to present. And they could be amateur darts even. So it could be a player that you maybe have never seen before. You can look up all of their stats, all of their previous things, and be able to make accurate bets on them. And I think that's the next step. I really do. It brings a lot of negativity to some of the players. It really does. And I want to make that an emphasis, that it's not all great to have sports betting involved, but I think that it needs to be. In order for the prize pool to go up, the players, I think, are going to have to understand that they're going to get some hate from some people sometimes when they don't perform, and they got to let it go, because those people are the reason why they're playing for 10K, 20K instead of where we're at right now. And I think that can absolutely be the way this goes.
You're right, buddy. I think that, it would be nice to get sports betting in the mix for our circuit, but it is a tough task to do. But I think another advantage that the Modus Super Series has is they have that controlled setting, and they're pumping out quality feeds for people to watch. So that's a benefit, where most of your WDF tournaments, some of those facilities don't have proper internet to do a stream, or a proper stream, like when you're in Russia or I mean, well, that's a touchy subject with the WDF, but like, I mean, let's get real.
Why'd you have to say Russia?
Poland, I know, I don't know why I had to, but you go like Poland or some of those European countries don't have proper internet in all their areas, let alone air conditioning. Let's be real there too. So it's one of those things that I will say this. I'm looking forward to seeing the WDF World Masters as well as the WDF Lakeside World Championships. I'm really looking to seeing how that goes, and then maybe that's the kicking point for them to have a good 2023 and kind of kick things back into gear. That's my hopes. We'll see if it happens. We don't know. We don't know until it actually kicks in. But I did want to shout out one more thing, because the Moto Super Series did happen this past week. And how about this? Chris Mason throwing some heat all week long, my man. He was throwing 90 pluses. And now he's going to be in the World Seniors Tour. So that's going to be a scary player to play against if you're a seniors competitor. But also, man, just picking up a big paycheck after being in the commentary booth all that time. Yeah. Pooh, that's got to feel nice. You have any thoughts on him?
First of all, he makes me look terrible, because there's no way I would ever be able to do anything like that. Get from the commentary booth out there and actually perform. But, he had pedigree before he went into the commentary booth. Cool to see. You'd like to see more of those players do it. I know John Part's playing in the seniors. I know I would like to see someone like Wayne Mardell get in there and do that. Mark Webster, when he becomes of age to do that, I think it would be cool. There's a lot of great players that are also fantastic commentators. Chris Mason just showed you, hey, it can be done. And he did it against some pretty tough competition too. And it takes a lot of guts to get out there in front of, we'll call it your own stream, because a part of that series, and perform. And he did fantastic. It really does take a lot of guts to put yourself out there to do that. And to perform at that level is so cool.
Well, I couldn't escape this lead-in, so I'm just going to go ahead and roll with it. If you want to watch, I guess if you want to watch me play some darts this week, you can on your show, Sean, because I'm going to head to Indiana and play on the Siege, I guess, with a mystery guest involved. So who knows who that's going to be, but I'm looking forward to coming your way and throwing some darts on your show. Indie Darts to the Point streaming the Siege, so definitely tune in. If you have time, Tuesday the 18th, 8 p.m. Eastern, if you would. And then, while you're at it, head on over to USA Darts. You can get yourself one of these nice new Elite Series jerseys for yourself, 3 or 4 different colors. Nice little color scheme we got going on here. So grab yourself one today. We also have hoodies and beanies coming. So careful,
Ooh.
careful.
It's going to be great for the winter time.
I'm telling you, it's going to be amazing.
Listen, that black and green one is screaming my name. Just absolutely screaming it. I love that color combination. I always do. And I'm so jealous that it says USA Darts on it instead of To The Point Streaming. But I would love to. We're basically family now, so I'd rock that thing hands down easily.
I'm sure you'll be getting one. But anyway, let's get into our next thing. The reason why most of you guys are here, our Continental Cup preview. As I know you're excited, sir, because you're going to be behind the microphone. We're going to be hearing your lovely voice. Maybe a few booms, who knows on that one. Maybe they're going to screech you to a halt, but I certainly hope you drop 1 or 2 every once in a while. But I'm looking forward to this one. We got a ticker with all our names here. Let's get right into it, buddy. As you know, we did unfortunately have a fallout. We didn't get 2 of our bigger name players who did qualify for this event, and that being Danny Baggish and Matt Campbell, who've elected to go overseas and play in the PDC events. So that's kind of a touchy one. A lot of people are like, well, you know, who's going to fill in? It's Doug Bohm and Ross Snook. Some familiar names, but is it fair? Is it right? Should the boys be allowed to play? And they could play. They're just electing to go over to PDC. What's your thoughts on that, buddy?
You know what? I'm going to say this. This is nothing against Danny and Matt, okay? And I want to make that perfectly clear. I really do think that the field that we have for the Continental Cup Tour Finals is the best field we've ever had. I do think that when you look at averages, if you look at the total entries for the CDC this year, Danny's number 2, and Matt's back in 11th in averages. So overall rating, Danny was 3rd. Matt was back there in 7th or 8th. So it's really not a huge hit. And honestly, I'm happy for those guys. Both of them are fantastic human beings, first and foremost. Well, one of them's a fantastic human being. The other one's Matt Campbell. And he would be fine if I said that. Sorry, I had to.
Oh, he will. He will be fine with that. and he'll prove it too. He'll be like, yes, you're right. You're right.
But I'm so happy for those guys to be able to have the opportunity to go over there and still play in the PDC. And that's what the CDC system is right now. Is it's supposed to build the next generation of North American talent to go overseas and play for big money. And those guys get to do it, and they have the opportunity to do it. And if they're wanting to retain that tour card, it was a no-brainer for them to make that choice. I assumed from the get-go that those guys were going to make that jump because I knew that weekend there was a PDC event. And as much as they want to be Continental Cup champions, both of them have never been Continental Cup champions, I think that it makes way too much sense for them to go up there and fight for their PDC tour card instead of playing in the Continental Cup. And I'm excited that I get to see the best shoes in darts in Ross Snook, and I get to see Doug Boehm, who might be the nicest guy I've ever met in my life, fighting for that spot too. He's already played in the U.S. Darts Masters, and he performed pretty well, and he will tell you that he was not nervous during it. And I think both those guys can easily do some damage. Ross Snook finished semifinal last event in Canada. So both of them are playing pretty well, and I think that they earned the spot, even being 17 and 18. I know that that was something that they were trying to do, and it's awesome to see. I'm excited to see them. So I'm cool with Danny and Matt going over there and playing. I think that it really just makes it that much more open of an event. And you still have the number one average in Alex Bellman, who's my favorite. Hasn't won an event this year for the CDC, but he is my favorite for that tournament.
Well, we were able to sit down with Peter Cetera, CEO of the Championship Darts Circuit, just a couple days ago, and we asked him just that. Let's see his thoughts on the matter. So we now know that unfortunately Danny Baggish and Matt Campbell unfortunately will not be in attendance, as they're going to be doing the PDC circuit overseas. Do you feel like this hurts the legitimacy of the Continental Cup, or what's your thoughts on that?
No, not at all. They're doing what they're supposed to do. In a sense, not only does it not hurt the legitimacy of the Continental Cup, it validates everything we're trying to do. Our goal has always been to create the next generation of PDC professionals from North America. So the fact that they're going and participating in events that they've earned the right to be in, the average person can't go play in those events. So to me, no, it doesn't hurt the legitimacy of the Continental Cup at all. They're being replaced by, two guys that are quality players. I mean, Doug Boehm was up in New York in the Madison Square Garden stage, right? Ross Snook isn't exactly a first-time dart player. So the quality of play that we have that are replacing those two guys, giving them the opportunity to participate in the event is amazing. But Matt and Danny are doing exactly what Matt and Danny need to do. They both need to fight for every dollar they can fight for on that PDC order of merit. That's where they want to be, right? So it doesn't hurt the legitimacy at all, not in my mind.
Well, there you go, buddy. A little word from Peter Cetera as he confirmed it there. I think I'm going to have to bid with you guys as well. I think it doesn't really matter. I think they're going to go overseas, and two good replacements with the two competitors that we have, Doug being in the U.S. Masters, and then Ross being the player that he is. I mean, he's been on the stage presence numerous times, so a good feeling. And yeah. I think, honestly, from top to bottom, you have anybody can shoot 85 to 100. Honestly, it could very well happen, and we've seen that kind of success throughout the tour this year. The numbers have been there, including numerous players in the 90s, talking like 9 to 10 players per event in the 90s. So that just shows, kind of what we're talking about. And just to kind of go over some numbers real quick, because we did have these numbers real quick for all previous Continental Cup that have happened. So Larry Butler won the first one in 2015, Gary Broomhead in 2016, 2017 Gary Motson, Leonard Gates in 2018, 2019 was Danny Lauby, and then 2021 was Jeff Smith. Last year being the only real kind of stinker of a final, which was 81 average for both competitors. Everything else is almost touching the 90s, if not a couple in the 90s. So really, that list of winners is really a substantial list. Some big eye-popping names, and I think we're going to add a big name to the list this year. And I'm going to agree with you. My favorite's Alex as well, but we're kind of going to get into the list here and kind of go match per match. I don't know if you can go do this or not being a commentator, but let's pull up the list for you guys at home.
I don't know if I can or not. This will be my first time doing this, so
well, we got David.
In trouble for this later on. I apologize.
David Cameron, Ross Snook, and number 1 seed, and Ross Snook, so it'd be in the 16 seed. I like David Cameron in this myself. Kind of moving to the next one, Gary Mawson and Steve Warnock. Who do you got there? That one's the tough one.
So I'm going to say this. If I had to pick a dark horse based on who they've beat this year in the CDC and how they've done it, Steve Warnock seems to beat a giant player every single CDC event, at least one of them. He is always a tough first round opponent, even for the number 1 seed, number 2 seed. In Indy, he stopped Matt Campbell from winning 2 out of the first 3 tournaments because he took him out in the first round both times. Steve Warnock is such the player that can really do some damage in this tournament. I would honestly, if I'm Gary Mawson, I am not happy about having to draw against Steve with how he's been throwing. But Gary threw really well in Canada. That's a tough one, man. But I'd have to give the edge to Steve based on averages, based on what we've seen consistency-wise out of him. But Gary being a former Continental Cup champion, you never want to count out the Continental Cup champions, bud.
Truth there, sir, as he's had experience over at the UK Open as well, being a finalist there, just narrowly missing out to James Wade. Alex Spellman, Keith Way. I'm going to give the advantage, of course, to Spellman. As I told you, he's kind of one of my favorites. I got him going to the final. John Norman Jr. and Stowe Bunce. That's that 12-5 matchup that's real nice in college basketball. We all know how that one kind of goes. I'm picking Stowe myself. I think that he can do some damage in this bracket. Do you think the same?
I really think it's going to be a great matchup. If I had to pick a match for sure that I think if you twisted my arm, you have to pick one lower seed player to be a higher seed player, it would be Stowe Bunce over John Norman Jr.
There we go. Well, I'm not going to put Sean under any more pressures. He might get fired from his job. So, Jacob
Before
Taylor,
I even get to do it.
Jacob Taylor, Doug Bowe. I'm going to go ahead and say Taylor gets Doug on this one. Jim Long, Chuck Pulio. Same there. I think Jim will get him, as I just haven't seen a lot of Chuck lately. But that's just kind of Chuck for you. Chuck kind of does his thing in Arizona and gets by. That's just kind of how he goes about life. Gates and Ryan Vanderwood. I've got Gates being my surprise to kind of make it through maybe to the final. Just with the kind of year he's had.
That's a bold move to pick that number 3
Bold
seed to make it to
move.
the final.
Bold move, bud. Bold move, but I think I like it. And then how about this one? I do want to ask you about this last one because this is a special matchup. Yep.
Yeah.
Larry Butler, 65 years young. Joey Lanaugh turns 21 the day of the event, October 22nd. So a fresh 21-year-old Joey Lanaugh taking on Larry Butler. The old regime taking on the new era. What do you think about this matchup?
It's going to depend a little bit on two things. First of all, Larry Butler's been on top of his game as of recently. I don't overlook Larry rolling a long way deep into this tournament. Joey, is it going to be a situation like most of us when we turn 21, where at midnight that night we decide to head to a drinking establishment to get started on our 21st year? Or I know what he's going to do. He's going to take the Continental Cup seriously. He sat in the first row last year as a spectator and then now is playing as the 11 seed this year. And it'd be one thing if he was the 16 seed, 15 seed. He's an 11 seed. He's done some damage on the CDC this year. Obviously, the Evolution Tour, he's done a lot of damage on. He made the top 32 of the World Youth Championship for the PDC. At the age of 21, he plays like a very experienced veteran player. That's going to be a good matchup. I love the storyline of old school versus new school, but Larry's not really old school in the same way. Larry has evolved with the game, and he's probably at the best that I've seen him in a long time. I kind of expect Larry to roll deep in this, but he has to get past Joey to do it. There's a reason we call Joey the Juggernaut. It's because if he starts rolling, he's tough to slow down, and Larry's just got to kind of put the kibosh on that early. If he does, I see Larry winning this. If it's a close matchup and Joey gets some confidence going into it, it could go that way. It's so good. It's going to be such a good matchup, Dud.
I think Joey's the kind of player that he just doesn't care who's in front of him, doesn't care the name. He's just going to roll into it. He beat some impressive names to get out of that round robin and into the Youth World Championship top 32. I'm going to say that Joey Lanaugh, I'm going to sway it towards him instead of Larry, just because I think that he's one of those guys that can put up a good show. But then again, Larry can throw a 95 at you whenever he wants to, and then all of a sudden you're like, what just happened? And I don't think Joey's quite there yet. I don't think Joey can throw that 95 anytime he wants to, but I still think Joey can pull it off. So moving on.
I might have gotten fired just now.
Yeah, you never know. You never know. That's why I was like, I'm not going to lay into Sean here and make sure it picks everything. But anyway, I'm looking forward to it. It's going to be October 22nd, folks, at Woodside in New York. You can still, I think there's still a couple tickets available. If you're in the area, come on down. I think it's $10 for the first session, maybe $10 for the second session. It's, change. Come on, go down there and fill the place. And if not, pdc.tv, grab a subscription so you can watch the Continental Cup from the comfort of your home and enjoy some of North America's finest take the stage.
I will say,
yeah,
if you're in the area, you come, because we have a lot of cool things in place for those spectators that are going to be there in person. It's going to be a really fun time. I can tell you that much. The stuff that we have, or that the CDC is planning to do, it's going to be a cool atmosphere. If you can get a ticket, there's very few left, which is really cool to say out loud. I know that ticket sales have been very awesome for the Continental Cup, but let's sell that thing out. Let's sell it out. It's gonna be great. And of course, if you can't be there, pdc.tv. Get yourself a subscription. You get to hear my beautiful voice, maybe some other fantastic people's voices as well.
Never know.
It's going to be a great time, man.
It won't be my voice. I can confirm that, folks. I did want to go back to Ashton's questions, is because this is kind of the prominent question that stood out. I mean, we've kind of already answered this a little bit, but my question is, his question was, how do you think we can get a big tournament in the States with a big prize pool? So we're already kind of seeing it with TOC. Granted, it's in a different way. But I think that the CDC is starting to grow in the aspect of I think their prize pool is $120,000 overall when you kind of think of it. That's a pretty good, substantial prize pool.
Yeah.
But I think we have to get that TV deal worked out. We're on a network, and we're fortunate enough to kind of start to move into the FTF deal, which is really nice. We're starting to work with FTF Sports and put our production out there and do some dart clinics and stuff, which is a step in the right direction.
Yep.
So we know we can do it and people want to see it. Now we can get all the right platforms out there for people to watch. Then you're going to start seeing the paychecks roll in from different sponsors, and it's just going to take a couple big ones for us to go up and over the moon. Like we said, a sports betting platform, a big shoe company, a big beverage company even. I mean, we had the Budweisers back in the day. Let's get them back. Let's pull them back in, That's
Can you imagine the Alex Bellman's Air Force Ones dart shoe?
We're already seeing it with the Trip 20s. We're already seeing it with the Trip 20s for Devin Peterson.
I love it.
I love it too. I love it too. But there you go, Ashton. Moving on, as we got future events, coming events. For us, our next event will be Which City Open 2022. This is up in Massachusetts, brought to you by the Minutemen Dart League, a fantastic tournament. This will be my first time in attendance. I'm really looking forward to being up there. And then we'll head right on back, as we'll have Seacoast coming a couple weeks after, or actually, 2 weekends after this one. So we skip a week and then we're back up in Boston for another run. So looking forward to that one, as well as Ghost on the Coast is that weekend as well. So if you're not attending Which City, attend Ghost and at least get a tournament in. For Soft Tip, don't forget about the PPDs, DRTs, those daily remote tournaments. We always want to advertise those. Of course, our CSC Challenger Series, which we hope to have tomorrow night with Jeremiah Millar and Kenny Doyle, as we round out our top 4 in Division 1 and our top 3 in Division number 2. And then moving on, we've got Booyah Cup qualifiers we want to mention as well. So definitely try to attend that one, as we brought you the coverage of the Booyah Cup last year. Definitely a cool event that you want to get qualified for, as there's lots of big names fighting for some good money for that first place prize pool up in Wisconsin. So get involved. Bouyahdarts.com is where you can find all the information and sign up for that event. Go ahead and do so if you would. So looking forward to that one. And man, I wanted to mention one more thing about our FTF deal, because I didn't mention it. we've kind of teamed up with a couple people on this, and we're looking forward to adding more names to that. So I wanted to mention that Bullshot Darts with Nick Georgeson. He's loaned us some of his footage, so that's going to be our dart clinic aspect, as well as Callie West with Garage Darts. So 2 big names that are helping us out with that project, as well as, live event replays, highlights, and even just reruns of like TOC that we're going to see this week on FTF. Definitely want to
That's awesome.
reach out and RokuChannel.com, or even on your mobile device, download it, and it's free to watch. So help us out, help these guys out, get the game out there so that we can get more players involved and more money rolling to us. Sean, you got anything else for us, buddy? That's gonna do it for us, man.
Man, I want to say how honored I have been to be a part of all the things I've been a part of. This last year has been ridiculous, and to get into the Continental Cup finals this next week is kind of a culmination of all of that work. And I can't do it without you. I couldn't do it without Nick. I couldn't do it without my partners for To The Point Streaming, and everyone that follows along, supports. I really appreciate everyone. I don't get to the point where I am without all of you. And shout out to my wife, Megan, my 2 kids. She's pulling pretty much both parent duty often to allow me to travel and do these things. So if I don't shout her out, I'm sleeping on the couch. So I want to make sure to do that. But man, I hope tomorrow happens. It'd be a great birthday to end it with some CSC action. But hey, I get a birthday gift anyway. I get the great Will Stuart in our studio on Tuesday. I hope you have a safe trip, man. That's a long trip for you to come up there and do that, and it's really cool that you're doing it for us.
Yeah, traveling the 10 hours to Indy to play some darts and have some fun, kind of check out the setup and help you guys any way possible. So I'm looking forward to it, to being there, that's for sure. And just about what you were saying, yeah, it's crazy to think that we're kind of sitting here doing what we're doing now. 13 gigs this year for USA Darts on the live streaming side, and man, I've got a ton coming my way for next year too. So it's almost scary to think about it, but we're on and rolling, buddy, and we look forward to continuing the action and bringing you the coverage here live on USA Darts. Don't miss out. Hit that like, hit that follow, hit that notification bell, subscribe to our YouTube so you don't miss out on any of our coverage. We definitely appreciate you bearing with us for our episode of Bullshooting Podcast tonight. No, I'm just kidding. It was definitely a thrill to have you here, Sean. And I look forward to the next time, man. Look forward to seeing you in person, giving you a big bear hug in the next couple of days.
We've got to stop doing this where we do this on Sunday nights after my team wins and your team loses. We got to stop doing that.
I'm going to go cry now. Thanks for mentioning it. All righty, folks. Thanks for joining us. We definitely appreciate it. From William Stewart and Mr. Sean Green, we'll see you next time. Thanks for watching.
Thanks, guys.